Welcome back to High Stakes. Elevate your game by subscribing to our channel so you never miss our daily content. For exclusive access to our premium betting picks, join our Patreon. Find the link in the comments section below. Stay ahead with High Stakes.
Bowling Green versus Penn State. James Franklin, whether by decision or randomness, is one of the best coaches against the spread at the collegiate level. In fact, according to this Odyssey article, Penn State bettors are up roughly 15 units from 2016 to 2022. That's ranked first out of any school. The article breaks down all of the numbers heading into last year's season, where Franklin compiled another 9-4 ATS season to add to his ATS success. So, while 34.5 points feels like a ton, I don't mind laying it in this spot, especially while it's inside of a full 5 touchdowns. PSU's offense looked dynamic in the opener, racking up 457 yards. They picked up 13.1 yards per pass attempt and 5.3 yards per carry. Meanwhile, while Bowling Green held FCS Fordham to only 17 points, they allowed 401 yards. I think the Nittany Lions offense is going to eat behind this big offensive line. And, defensively, they should keep Bowling Green in check as they're coming off a season where they were third overall in defensive scoring, 14.0 PA/G. Let's lay it with Penn State. In last year's non-conference games, Penn State averaged an insane 54.7 points per game. They scored 38 against West Virginia while dropping 63 points on both Delaware and Massachusetts. As I mentioned above, James Franklin has no mercy on these smaller schools. It's pedal to the metal for the Nittany Lions. So, don't be surprised if Penn State manages a 56-0 or 56-6 win here, clearing this total by themselves. They have the offensive talent to do so under veteran quarterback Drew Aller. He looked fabulous against a well-respected West Virginia team in the opener, so imagine what he'll do in this game. Just like the spread, we're also getting a favorable number as this total sits under a flat 49.0 points. I'm not thinking twice about this one, give me the over. California versus Auburn. This game against Cal gives the Tigers their first opportunity to shine this season after destroying a lesser school in Week 1. The Tigers focused on the pass in that game, which will have them well prepared to attack Cal's defensive weakness from last season. Furthermore, Cal did not impress on offense against the Big Sky's UC Davis and will find themselves up against a more formidable Tiger D. Additionally, the atmosphere at Jordan-Hare Stadium will be festive after Auburn accomplished their 800th win in program history and will be entering their first competitive game of the season. If you are unsure about Auburn's student support of their athletics, just look to the Jungle, where their basketball team plays, which is considered one of the toughest in the nation. In Cal's 3 road losses last season, they fell by an average of 30.33 points, with all 3 margins greater than this line. Cal does not match well with Auburn and will struggle to stop the Tigers' attack. Lay the 13.5. These schools played against each other at Cal Berkeley last season, with Auburn taking the game 14-10. It was the lowest scoring game of the season for both schools and demonstrated 2 offenses that were still relatively new. Since then, each squad found their identities, ultimately averaging 30.2 points for Cal and 29.2 for Auburn. Understandably, the book paid no heed to last season's game, applying a higher-than-average total of 53 here. The value is on the over as Auburn is committed to the pass, which is Cal's weakness on offense. This will allow Auburn to have a great scoring performance building on last week's 73 points. Cal won't have the same success, but does have the ability to score, which is evident in last year's average, which included good performances against some of the Pac-12's top teams. In fact, against the top tier of the Pac-12 last season, such as Oregon, USC, Washington, and Oregon State, each game went well over the total. This one goes over the total as well. Jacksonville State versus Louisville. Jacksonville State had a bad opener, giving up 55 points in a bad loss at home where they were a 3.5-point favorite. They were killed against the run, which does not bode well for them facing a solid Louisville run game. The Gamecocks will get some points with their passing game, but not much. They will turn the ball over a few times, relying on the passing game, and they will not be able to stop the Cardinals in the air and especially on the ground. Louisville will be impressive again, as they will rack up the yards, play good D, and win and cover the big spread. Take Louisville at minus 28 points. The total went over for both of these teams in their season opener, and that is the pick I am leaning towards in this game. The total went over for the Cardinals even though they pitched a shutout, scoring 62 points. However, that was facing an FCS opponent. Jack State lost badly in their first game, giving up 55 points and getting torched on the ground, but they did score 27 points. They will get some points in this game in the passing game, but they will not get many points and their run game will struggle. On the other side of the coin, the Cardinals will have a big rushing game and put up a lot of points. This non-conference affair will be far from a defensive battle, which is why the over is the pick. Take the over 58 points. Temple versus Navy. The Temple Owls have a 4-1 record covering of plus 12.5 spread against the Navy in their last 5 meetings dating back to 2018. Week 1 showed us a Navy team taking advantage of a poor defense in FCS Bucknell, while we also saw the Temple Owls facing off against one of the top offenses last year in Oklahoma. We saw the best of one team and the worst of another, but I do not feel that properly demonstrates how these teams play against a more level playing field. I expect this game to be close like they have in the past when these teams have met. The Navy midshipmen host Temple after a win last week against FCS Bucknell with a final score of 49-21. This would be a decisive victory for the Navy after ending the first half with a score of 28-7 and maintaining a lead up until the end of the game. The Navy was scoring every which way against Bucknell with 3 passing touchdowns and 4 rushing touchdowns. We saw Navy quarterback Blake Horvath complete 7 passes on 12 attempts with 108 yards and only 1 interception. Much of the offense for the Navy came from their ground game, which produced 264 yards. However, is this due to the Navy's offense finding its groove or simply taking advantage of a poor defense? It is a little of both. The Temple Owls are traveling to Maryland after their loss last Friday against the Oklahoma Sooners with a final score of 51-3. This score makes the Owls look worse than they appear to be, as Oklahoma last season ranked 3rd overall and scoring averaging 41.7 points per game, and Temple was the 5th worst team in points allowed at 38.1 per game. The fact that Temple turned the ball over 6 times did not help matters. The Owls last week were up against a team last season that ranked 29th overall in rushing yards per game at 182.3, so it would come as no surprise that Temple, who sat 127th in rushing yards allowed last season, would have trouble stopping the ball against a team that does well at the ground game. Last week, the Owls allowed 217 rushing yards, 161 passing yards, and 5 touchdowns, which all but one was scored in the air. This shows that Temple allowed the Sooners to march up the field with their ground game and finish off the drives with a pass into the end zone. I am taking the Temple Owls at plus 12.5 points. In the last 14 meetings between Temple and Navy, the total has gone over 42.5 points in all but one of their games dating back to 2001. We have to respect that the Owls will be bringing more offense than they did last week, especially after not scoring a single touchdown against the Sooners. We also saw Navy allow plenty of points to a team that is in a lower league in Bucknell. This is going to be a conference game which is going to matter for both teams, and they are going to play their hardest, which I believe will result in a high-scoring affair. I'm siding with the over at 42.5 points.